Title belts to Hall of Fame. Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, cry. Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. In the ring or on the air, legends living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the mat they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans want to know. Guys, kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. Guys, we took a week off for Labor Day and now we're back. What all did you do over the Labor Day holiday or since we last spoke here on the show?
Tommy, I know you did more than I did, so you can go first.
Well, we went out to my daughter's and had a big cookout, and then we went to the fireworks show and laid out the day during the beach, at the beach. Had a pretty good Labor Day weekend.
Man, me and Melissa did also and everything, Gene. We kicked back and done some stuff, got on side by side, and rode on some trails and just we kicked back. Like I said, we barbecued a little bit and everything. We had a good holiday weekend and everything, and it was all really great. Last night, I wrestled at the Manchester Fair, and that was a cool deal and everything. I had a great time there and met a lot of old school fans and young fans and everything, and that was really cool. And signed a lot of autographs. And I told Tommy I was actually shocked. These people brought programs from 93, 92, 94. And man, it was cool seeing them and everything. Me and Tommy against PG and Tommy against Brian and myself against Stephen Dunn and different things like that. And that was really cool. I liked all that and everything. And I had a good time up there. And since I'm talking about dates and everything, September 10th, which is Wednesday night, we'll be in Lexington, Tennessee, my hometown of the Gilberts, Lexington, Tennessee, Henderson County Fair. Myself, Tommy Wildfire Rich will be signing autographs, meet and greet from 5 to 6. Then wrestling will be right after it and everything. You can come see us up there. And this, like I said, that's Wednesday night, September 10th. And then September the 11th, me and Tommy will be at a couple of businesses, I think, in Jackson, Tennessee. And you'll be able to see us there. And September 12th, Ripley, Tennessee, we'll be there wrestling. And then September 13th, you'll get to see us in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And then September 14th, we'll be at the West Tennessee Comic Con at the Carl Perkins Civic Center in Jackson, Tennessee. And, man, it's just going to be a big weekend right there of wrestling. You go to September 20th, the Banana Festival in South Fulton, Tennessee. From 11 to 2, you'll have Wildfire, Tommy Rich, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, Jerry the King Lawler, Jimmy the Mouth South Hart. So that's going to be a big day there. And then me and Tommy will leave straight from there at 2. And we'll be driving to Paragould, Arkansas. And we'll be at Paragould, Arkansas at the Horicon, right there at the Greene County Fairgrounds. And we'll be signing there from, I think it's 5 to 7. Then the matches start at 7. And you can come out and see us. You get us to sign whatever you want and watch us wrestle. And then we've got October 3rd, meet and greet Captain's Corner. And October 4th, Memphis, Tennessee, at the Tiger Lane Memphis Tigers, the Memphis Mafia tour. We're going around everywhere. Tommy's got some stuff coming up with him and Tony Atlas in Franklin, Tennessee. Then we've got in November with me and him. And Tommy, what is the town we're doing? It's November 26th, 27th, I think.
Lebanon, Tennessee.
Lebanon, Tennessee. I told Tommy that's my town, Lebanon. He can't have it. But anyway, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on, Gene, and we got you can kick on into November the 26th and 27th. We're going to be over Mississippi, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's the 21st and 22nd.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the 21st and 22nd. I don't have that wrote on my paper here, and I try to get Tommy to say some of these, but he don't want to do it. So I'm looking at a piece of paper that's got my scribbling on it. I can't read half of it, so I need to write a little better, I guess. But yeah, it was cool. The guys come out last night, and there was about 4 or 5 guys, and they got me to sign some old stuff, and they bought some pictures and stuff, and man, we had a good time up there last night.
Yeah, I seen where one guy shared a bunch of those programs and different things he had you sign. Yeah, I guess it was last night. It's probably right after he had seen you, probably. But yeah, man, that was a lot of cool stuff. I'd like to have been there to look through some of those programs. That was really cool. But
and it was a cool night, and I got an experience that I'd never had before. I was in a tag team match with the King of Kingsport. I'd never knew there was a guy called the King of Kingsport. I knew the guy well, but I didn't know he was called the King of Kingsport. But that was a new one to me. But Bo James was my partner, Tommy, last night. He had a bull whip. You remember Dutch Mantell had the bull whip? Well, I think he stole Dutch Mantell's bull whip, but he had it popping. I made sure I stayed away from him when he was doing it.
Did he have a crown to go with that King of Kingsport?
He didn't have the crown. That's what I was kind of worried about. I might need to carry him a crown or something. Cause
I was going to say, if he has a crown and a bullwhip, that's a lot.
What's that, Tommy?
How's he a king with no crown?
Well, maybe the bullwhip's his crown.
He is the uncrowned king.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but he don't have the crown, but he's got a bullwhip. So maybe he would think a crown and a bullwhip would be too much. But man,
yeah, I got it.
But it was cool. I thought we had a good match and everything. People seemed to enjoy it and everything. And like I said, it was cool. And I told one guy, Tommy, you'll laugh. I told him, I said, you know, Tommy always used to try to get me to come out and sign stuff and everything. And I'd say, no, you just go. I said, and he'd go out. And I said, now, you know what? I said, things really do change, don't they? I said, now I'd rather sit out here and talk to y'all and sign stuff than I had to do some other stuff. And the guy laughed. He said, we all change, don't we, Doug? I said, well, I guess I sure do. I said, because Tommy'd say, come on with me. I'd say, no, you just go. I said, a lot of times he'd just go. I said, every once in a while he'd talk me into it. But I said, I think that's why I hadn't signed very much stuff as far as that goes, as far as around these parts and everything.
I imagine you still have writer's cramp today because I saw at least 15 or 20 things that you had signed in variations of Dirty Doug Gilbert and Dangerous Doug Gilbert and
Hitman Doug Gilbert.
There you go, Hitman Doug Gilbert. So
yeah, and people don't realize before there was a Hitman Bret Hart, there was a Hitman Doug Gilbert. That's kind of interesting.
Well, guys, we've been getting some questions sent in from the listeners, so I thought it was time before they pile up too much that we take a week and do a Q&A again. I know you guys usually like to see what the listeners have to say and what kind of questions they got for you. So you guys ready to kick that off?
And we're ready to kick it off. But I got to listen coming home last night. It's 210 miles from Manchester to my home, and I got to listen to Tommy Rich and your main man, Gene, Randy Hills. I got to listen and watch them on my phone and everything. Now, you talking about an interesting show. It was an interesting show.
I wanted to catch that because I saw where Randy Hills shared that he was going to be on Dangerously Conversation with Tommy Rich last night. And I didn't know if Paul Heyman was going to be there or something because I'd never heard of Dangerously Conversation, but that's what he called it.
Is that what he called it? Well, maybe he got a little confused. But anyway, but I listened to it and watched it all the way back. And when Tommy started saying, I'm going to start telling your stories now, Randy got a little paranoid then. I laughed. That was funny. And then I laughed, and Melissa did too, because I was watching it and she was driving. And I laughed about the part when that Dan, he's cool and everything. He's talking about Tommy being a big magnet. Gene, have you heard of a big magnet? You know what a big magnet is?
I mean, I've heard other words plugged in front of that term, but I know.
Yeah.
Surely weren't saying it on the radio in Jackson last night. I wouldn't think.
He's a big sex magnet. I like.
There you go.
I said, and Melissa said, if Terry's listening to this, she's gonna say, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to bed. I ain't listening to any more of this." I laughed but Randy did say, I told Tommy, and this was cool, but which Randy was trying to explain it and everything. But what he was saying was how Tommy got over. He was saying that at the time there was no young guys in the territory that could work, and you had like Jerry Jarrett was the young guy, then. And I mean, Jerry wasn't that young, but you know what I'm saying? There was no young, like 18, 19-year-old kids that, could get sympathy and everything. And he said, when Tommy come in, he said he was just the magnet. He was the girls in Jonesboro, when he would bleed, they'd come to the Coliseum, and when he would bleed, they would just cry. And he was going into that. And I mean, but he's telling the truth, and that is the truth. But I told Tommy, I said, well, he could have just said that it wasn't just that he said that you look so good that you could work and everything. But I told Tommy, I said, Tommy, you didn't say it either. I said, you could have told him, one thing that got him to do that was you could work. That was the thing. And Tommy started laughing after I told him that. But it was cool. It was a good show, Gene. It was a great show. And I appreciate Randy filling in for me. Like I said, I had to be on the road. I was in Manchester and everything. I had a great night. And I think Tommy had fun on the show also.
Oh, yeah. They had me flabbergasted.
Yeah, if I'd have called you any kind of magnet on here, I'd have had to cut it out when we got done. I'd have got in trouble.
There you go. I was laughing. I was laughing. It was funny. But anyway, it was a great show, I thought. I thought Randy did a great job. Tommy did a great job. And Dan did a great job. I appreciate him doing it with me being gone, which every once in a while, Tommy or myself, one have got to be off. We've got stuff to do, and we'll get people to fill in. When we get you to fill in, we'll get you to fill in. But the only thing about you, you've got podcasts every night, so we can't get you very much. So. But hey, one of the cool things like this October 4th, Gene, is this Memphis Tigers deal where all the guys get together, Lawler, Tommy, myself, Jimmy Hart, Coco Ware, Reggie B. Fine, a lot of us, all of us get together and we do a signing, a little meet and greet deal, and then we wrestle and everything. I mean, it's really a cool deal there, and I'm looking real forward to that and everything. But that's a really cool thing for people to come out to. And when me and Tommy see all the old school fans, and like he said, the young fans and everything, and they introduce their moms, dads, grandparents, introduce them to us, and that's kind of a neat deal.
Yeah, that Memphis Mafia's on tour, man. That's what I'm talking about.
Man.
Yes, sir. We busy.
Tearing it up all over the place. So make sure you catch these guys. They're coming somewhere near you. Pick which one you want to go to, and if it's not real near, you can drive and see these guys. They're worth the.
Come to all of them.
There you go. Go on. You can tour along with like they used to do for the Grateful Dead and stuff.
Like Woodstock.
There you go. That's what we need to do.
And that's the town. Y'all know that Manchester is where that. What's it? It's like Woodstock, but what they call it, Lollapalooza. Or something. That's in Manchester, Tennessee, and they just told me that. The guy told me that this morning. I didn't even know it.
There's ridiculous amounts of people turned out for that. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Well, all right, you guys ready to answer a few questions here?
Shoot, yeah, Tommy is. I can tell by the way he's looking at that magnet.
He's ready for something. All right, here we go. This is some of these questions are for both of you, and some are for each of you. We'll see.
Hey, Jeannie, Tommy's got on that Memphis Mafia shirt. We need to make sure everybody knows to go to Pro Wrestling Tees, Gilbert Family, you get those Memphis Mafia shirts.
Yes, hopefully you went during. They just had a big special over there. You got to keep an eye on all the Facebook for the podcast and for Doug, and he'll let you know when new stuff goes up, specials and everything. And there's a lot of great new shirts up there. And
Gene, you got to send me a Tommy mugshot shirt.
Yeah, we'll get you one of those.
Yeah, that's the best. And you know what the cool thing? Road Dogg texted me and he said, "Guess what I bought today?" I said, "What's that?" and he showed me the the numbers where it shows where he bought it and everything. Yeah. He said, I got me one of these. He said, look at Tommy smiling with his hair looking pretty. So you'll see Road Dogg wearing a Tommy Rich shirt mugshot.
Yeah, Wolfie sent me a screenshot of that because Road Dogg sent it to him. And then he messaged me, he goes, oh my God, have you seen this? And I'm like, yeah, that's my store. And he's like, oh. He's like, does Tommy know about it? I'm like, yeah, he knows about it. It's
yeah, cool. See, now Wolfie still ain't smart. And you think he is, Gene. He thinks Tommy get hot. Tommy loves the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he thought it was good. Yeah, he said he sent it to Tommy. I'm like, yeah, Tommy knows. Anyway. So intern number 2 asks for both of you. It says the infamous angle in 1990 involving Jerry Lawler and the Snowman has been discussed on some of Gene's other podcasts. But do either of you have any stories or memories of Snowman Eddie Crawford?
Tommy?
I don't really know.
Yeah, well, I do. What happened was Tom Burton. You remember Tom Burton that worked?
Yeah,
he went and told Snowman that Lawler was going to take the belt off of him, but he booked him against Brian Lee, and he was going to put it on Brian Lee. And so Snowman walked out of TV and kept the belt and sold the belt. And supposedly somebody told me that he sold it to somebody and they got it back to Lawler, and that might be the truth. If I ever asked him, he'd tell me, but I've never even, I've never even thought nothing about asking nothing like that because I ain't never been that interested in it. But
Milliken ended up with it at some point, but I don't know if he got it back to Lawler.
It wound up being he made it a racial deal. Snowman did and everything. And, you didn't need to do that and everything, but that was one of the deals that was bad about all that. But like I said, Lawler was going to have him to drop it to Brian Lee, and Brian Lee would have dropped it back to Lawler. But Tom Burton went and told him that, and then that's what blowed all the stuff out of the water.
Yeah, that whole scenario from beginning to end was just completely odd, and why they decided to go with that whole race angle just didn't do anything for anybody in the long run. But luckily, once Snowman got out of the territory, Eddie and you guys were back not long after that. Things kind of got back on track. But,
right.
Brian Trammell asks, Doug, in 1991, Steve Austin was in the USWA, both in Dallas and in Memphis. What kind of a guy was Steve Austin at that point in his career, and did you see the potential in him to become such a big star as he did?
Man, Steve was a great guy. He was a hard worker. And, I mean, you talking about paying his dues. He paid his dues and everything. And, I never knew those guys had it as bad as they say they did now, as far as, this was like Nashville was Tommy's home. Hendersonville, Nashville was Tommy's home. Lexington was my home, and our families was here. So, I mean, and we was taken care of pretty good. And by all affairs I hear, they wasn't. And, I mean, I hate to know that. I would have tried to help them some back then, but I mean, I didn't think it was that bad for them, which then you look at it and they was having to pay hotels and pay for their food. And, I've heard them on some stuff say that, they would just eat this or that because they just had that much money to do it. But when we was looking at it, we had money. I mean, we wasn't rich by no means or making a fortune, but we was making a good living.
Yeah.
And everything. And there were certain guys, and whether this is right or wrong, that got taken care of a little better than others and everything. And I mean, like my dad, when Jarrett started, my dad went with Jarrett. And like I said, Jarrett said that my dad was one of the 5 guys that he would be his 5 guys because they went with him and helped him get his stuff started and drawing money and everything. And then Tommy started, and I mean, Tommy was Jerry's boy. I mean, Tommy worked on Jerry's farm, and I don't mean boy about bad boy, what I'm saying, and everything. I mean, somebody else would say, like you were saying, racial stuff. I don't mean racial stuff. I mean, but Tommy was, was Jerry's boy. Jerry and Eddie Marlin loved Tommy and everything. And I mean, I'm glad they did. And, it's just, but going back to Steve Austin and those guys, you said, Steve, did you say someone else?
No, he just mentioned Steve Austin, but he said, did you see the potential in him to become as big a star as he did? But I don't think anybody at that in 91 could have seen him being as big as he became. I don't think you really see anybody blowing up that big, really.
Maybe not as big as he was, but I seen him becoming a star because he was an athlete. He was a great athlete, and he could do anything. And, I mean, he worked hard. He went and trained every day. I mean, he was a great talent.
And very respectful of the business, too. I met him. He come through Georgia some, too. And I was with him down in Louisiana, a couple of shots. But just very respectful of the business. I mean, they did struggle. I mean, especially when they come to USWA because they's on that develop. What do you call it?
Developmental.
They wasn't even on the develop. Yeah.
They were getting paid by the office up there. They wasn't getting paid by our office. They was getting paid WWE office.
Yeah.
So, their deal was different. But there again, I mean, they
Hey, Tommy, at the point Gene's talking about, there was no developmental deals. He comes straight from Texas to USWA. There was no Vince back then. I mean, it was just he was getting paid by Jerry. If he'd been getting paid by Vince, he would have been making $1,000 a week, I think is what he paid those guys in, but he was just getting paid by Jerry. So, I mean, he was, now that I look back at it, he was struggling then, but we didn't think it was struggling because we lived here and we wasn't paying for hotels every night, monthly rates at hotels and everything. And like I said, we was kind of taken care of probably a little better than they was and everything, but he was a great talent. But yeah, that was before Vince started paying anybody, Tommy. That was just Jarrett was the one paying him.
Oh, okay.
And everything. And they stayed at the what was it called, Tommy? Down there on what was the hotel, the famous hotel where all the boys stayed at?
Bimbo.
The what?
Bimbo.
Admiral Benbow, I think.
No, in Nashville, the one that all the boys lived at that I stayed at. Gene, what's the name of it? Why can't I not remember?
Stadium Inn?
Talk about the Alamo?
No. What was the name of that hotel? That makes me so mad I can't remember. I'll remember it here in a little bit and tell you.
Just yell it out when you think of it. That's fine. We'll go back to it.
Right.
But yeah, that's wild. We're watching those 91 episodes right now where he's coming in. And, Steve's out there with you and Dirty White Boy and Bruno and Jamie and everything. And then you hear these stories of Steve's like, yeah, I was eating raw potatoes and stuff because I couldn't afford anything. And you're like, man, he's standing out there right there with you guys who are being taken care of. But little do you guys know that, poor Steve's over here starving to death. That's why he's got those abs. I mean, he's not eating.
That's what I'm saying. I hear that these days and I feel bad. But, I mean, at the time, you don't know it and everything. And I mean, if he'd said anything to me, I'd have given him money. I mean, I hate that for any of the boys, but like I said, that the stadium, was it Stadium Inn or?
I think it's Stadium Inn's the one in Nashville.
Well, that's what
it was years later. I don't know, maybe not all the way back to the early 90s.
Stadium Inn, I think, is what. No, that was the one down there by. That was one Tony Falk run the wrestling show at. I'm trying to think. The White, was it called the White something? Is over there, Tommy. It was right on the road that if we went across from your mom's and we went right across the interstate and you take a left, it was straight down there. What was that hotel called? You know what I'm saying? From your mom's house, like where she stays now, if you take a right back and go right before the interstate, take a right and go down. What was that hotel called? But I stayed there with the guys a few nights, and I'd sleep on a cot. And like Gary Young and Max Payne, they had a room there and everything, and they'd bring a cot in there, and I'd sleep on the cot and everything would be up around Louisville and Evansville and everything. But I cannot remember to save my life. I'll remember in a little bit.
Now, those are some interesting names you mentioned, Gary Young and Max Payne. You got any fun stories about them since their name just happened to come up?
Oh yeah, Gary was a really fun guy, in which Eddie was one to give him the gorgeous Gary Young gimmick, and Eddie used him real good in Louisiana for Watts, and then got him to bring him here and everything. But Gary was good. I thought he was a good worker. He was out in West Texas when my dad got out there, and he wound up messing with somebody's. I guess I shouldn't have said that, but he had some kind of woman affairs and got him a lot of heat, and he got fired. And that was like when my dad was in West Texas. So he went somewhere else then. But then when Eddie met him and I met him and everything, Gary was always a good solid worker. And he looked good. And he was a big guy. He was big boned and everything. And he looked good and everything. But Eddie really liked him. He could work real well and everything. Now that Max Payne, he was a different type cat.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, he was different. Tommy, you was around him a little bit in WCW, wasn't you?
Not much. I think he was there, but he wasn't nobody I hung with.
Oh, I got you. Well, yeah, he was a different cat.
He didn't run with the York Foundation?
No, he didn't run with the Yorks.
and he was the one that put the camera in his hat and recorded Triple H. Remember that?
Yeah. Pretty much did him in.
Yeah, and he said, what did he get him on camera saying? That breakfast of champions back at him and had to go
Whew. Before we move past Steve Austin, have you guys ever heard the story? Steve Austin's told this, and Jeff has since verified it's true on his podcast, where, speaking of people who weren't hurting in USWA at the time, Steve Austin got his check at the end of 1 week, and he's sitting there in the locker room looking at it, just staring at it like, I can't believe this is what I'm getting paid. And Jeff walks over jokingly, slaps Steve on the shoulder and says, "You can keep staring at it. It ain't going to get any bigger." And he turns around and walks off. And Austin said that just went up him sideways, and he never forgot it. And that's why when it come back around in like 99, and they wanted to do the feud between Jarrett and Austin in the WWF, Austin refused to do it because he didn't want to elevate Jeff because of that one remark back in 91. And they asked Jeff Jarrett if that was true, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember saying it. It wasn't my finest hour, but I do remember saying it. I didn't mean it like that." But he apparently never forgot it.
Steve thought he meant it like
yeah. Hey, that probably cost him about $1 million and a half dollars.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, bless his heart. Well, next question is for both of you guys from Pepsi Phil 87. He sent us in several questions over these shows. He said, "What did you guys think of Terry Golden's KAW kick-ass wrestling promotion that ran in Memphis before it eventually became MCW?"
Man, I actually booked the promotion for him, Gene. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't.
And everything. But I'm talking about when it first started. I got like all the Memphis guys like Tommy, Dutch, trying to think who else. But now Terry booked his guys and everything, but I got like Tommy, Dutch. I was trying to remember, and I got a couple other guys, and I can't remember who they was, but if you ever look back at the cards and everything, you'll be able to tell who they were. Well, I actually got Brian to work one of the shows down there.
Oh, wow. I never knew he worked there.
And everything. Yeah, I worked with Brian down there, and it wound up getting into, me and him went out in the people, and hold on. Trying to think. Yeah, it was Brian. But you know what? That wasn't for KAW. That was for Randy. Randy run down there also, didn't he, Gene?
Yeah. He eventually.
That was for Randy, and we went out in the people, and me and him was fighting, and a fan started hitting Brian. So I had to grab the fan, but that was one of the wild times that, different. Usually they'd be hitting me, but they hit Brian
Yeah.
and everything. So that was a different ordeal, and everything wound up having to go to the police station over that and everything. But that was a different deal. But now, yeah, like I said, I got Tommy Dutch. There was a couple more that I got, but Terry got all of his guys, like the local guys. And man, he did a hell of a job with that. And we built it up and everything. And then we wound up, me and Tommy and Terry built it up, got a TV started, got a good TV show. He wound up getting a developmental deal from Vince when Randy lost it and everything. And he done real well with it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was one of the things, basically it was like a Southern ECW, if you will say. It was kick-ass wrestling, what we call it. Kind of everything went, what we do, whatever we wanted, and the people loved it. And every time, and I asked Terry one time after this, I said, did you like have sponsors and give tickets away? He said, Doug, I never give one ticket away. And it was always full, wasn't it, Tommy? Remember down
Oh, yeah, Terry. I mean, he hustled it. I mean, Terry was, like Dougie said, man, it was a fun place to work. I mean, and like we did. I mean, we'd run it by him, but we did what we wanted to. I mean, it was all good. And like I said, I mean, it was always full too. I mean, Terry loaded it.
And I just asked Terry here a while back, Gina, about the sponsors, and he give tickets away. He said, Doug, I never give one ticket away. He said, every person that was in that building, he said, bought a ticket. And I said, is that right? And he said, yeah. I said, I figured you had sponsors or something. He said, no. He said, I just promoted. And he did. And Terry's always been good at that and everything. But like I said, he had his own guys there. And then he started that TV. And me and Tommy went off doing other things and everything. And I never went back. But I mean, like I said, I was proud for him that he got the developmental deal, and he done good with that. And he signed a contract with Vince. He made money off the developmental deal. He went up there and done some stuff with him. And Terry's just a good businessman.
For sure. Frankie Moore asks, Doug, we all know about the on-screen rivalry over the years, and clearly Eddie was a big fan of Jerry Lawler prior to getting in the business. But what was their relationship behind the scenes once Eddie got in the business? And how did Eddie's view of Lawler change at that point? And how did it change as they became rivals on camera and behind the scenes?
There was a lot of he respected Lawler a ton, and and I mean, watching him growing up and seeing how he worked. And Lawler's a great worker. I mean, I just last night I was seeing Lawler and Plowboy Frazier, or actually Sam Bass and Plowboy Frazier against Tommy and Bill Dundee in 1976, and Lawler hit the ring, and they left Tommy laying bloody and everything. And Tommy's partner was Jerry Jarrett. It was Tommy Rich and Jerry Jarrett against Plowboy Frazier and Sam Bass, and Tommy wound up pinning Plowboy, and I was watching this, and I'd never seen it before, and I said, the referee must have messed that finish up, and but that shows how what I knew about it. But anyway, but I think Tommy put his feet on the ropes or something. It was like
No, he catapulted me with his big foot into that turnbuckle, and I just bounced back on his leg was sticking up. I just bounced back on his leg.
Yeah, that's it. But it was the simplest. But I thought it was like a 2 count. But I didn't see the referee because I was watching on my little phone. I say my little phone, not iPhone, but it's hard to watch it with Tommy and Randy Hill's head sticking up in the corner to see the other part of it. But yeah, I thought it was a 2 count and it was a 3 count. So they raised Tommy's hand and everything. Then they started beating Tommy, and they tied Jerry Jarrett to the ropes and with a belt. And Lawler come out, and Lawler beat the crap out of Tommy. And Plowboy Frazier dropped like 4 legs. But the thing about Plowboy was it didn't take him 10 seconds to get up, and he'd drop another leg. You've never seen nobody 7 foot tall and probably 400. He's probably 400 something pounds, wasn't he, Tommy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he was a big boy. And we were talking about that on the show. I mean, on the show last night about just how quick. I mean, he was for a big old fella. He could sure move quick, and to lay there and watch that big leg come down towards your head. You wanted to get up and run, but you knew you couldn't.
Tommy said Tommy said the ham hock was coming down towards his head. But anyway, no, get back to the subject. Eddie and Lawler's relationship. Eddie really respected him, and I think we all did that grew up watching him and everything. And as far as him being such a good worker and everything, but they had their on and offs like myself and Lawler did. But I mean, they worked so good together. And one of the biggest compliments that and Eddie would love this if he heard this was after he passed away and everything. But Lawler told me, he said, "You know why I like to work with Eddie so much?" And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because he reminded me of me."
Yeah. And
that would have made Eddie so happy and everything. And I think Eddie probably hear that and everything, but that really, meant the world to me just for him to say that. But I mean, Lawler always liked to work with Tommy. I mean, Tommy do different stuff to him that nobody else would do to him that I would even think he would want to do to him. But I mean, he told me that Eddie reminded him of himself. So to me, that was one of the biggest compliments that they could do.
Eddie did. I mean, you've seen a lot of Lawler in Eddie. I mean, because like you said, he grew up. I mean, he's at the Memphis Coliseum every Monday, and when he'd go on Tuesday and Wednesday, and Lawler'd be in all them towns, and he'd be out taking the pictures and stuff. So I mean, he grew up, and then Lawler was the big dog back then too. So he was the man to watch. I mean,
and Eddie took all them pictures of Lawler, wrote all them stories, and got Lawler in the magazines and everything. And as far as he'd send Bill Apter would sure put everything in that that Eddie would send him, and Eddie'd send him to different guys like wasn't it Joe Napolitano? I think Gene wasn't that his name?
Joe.
Listen to me, Joe. George Napolitano, and I was trying to think there was one other guy, but the George and Bill and George was the main two, but there was one other guy, and I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you were saying that, Tommy was kind of the same way, because Tommy jokes on here about he used to not get along with Lawler, but now they get along pretty well now. And then you mentioned you and Lawler's relationship was like that, but I think that's why y'all are always able to draw so well with him, is those times where there was that element of you're a little bit hot at each other, and we're really kind of saying some of this stuff right now is what really made it real for everybody.
A little bit. He on a thing somebody sent me the other day, he said that, and I asked him about this the other day. A guy sent me something on Messengers, and it was a shoot interview Lawler done with Rob Feinstein, and it said that different guys, people think we all like each other, and which at the end Rob asked him about me, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "Everybody thinks we're all just good friends and everything." He said, "Doug Gilbert called my house one day and threatened to kill me." And he said, "And, if I don't ever talk to him again, that's fine." He said, "If he don't like me, that's fine." He said, "But people think we all like each other and we're all best friends." He said, "But that's not the case with most of us." Said some of us are friends. He said, "But some of us don't like each other." And I popped, and after that guy sent me that, I called Lawler. I said, "I just listened to a dang promo you did." I said, "Did I call and threaten to kill you?" He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "At some point, did I call and threaten to kill you?" Then I got thinking, when me and Tommy was on that three-way call that day, Tommy, did I threaten to kill him? Or
you had a couple of choice things you told me.
I think I remember you telling. I don't know if we were recording at the time, but I remember you telling a story where y'all were on a three-way and you said something that insinuated you might do something along those lines. I don't know if those exact words, but
well, yeah. But on that shoot interview, he said I threatened to kill him. So I thought, wow, I might have said that. But anyway, but he was funny. We both started laughing, though. That was the funny part of it and everything. But yeah. But I mean, and a guy asked me last night, Gene. He said that when you said that stuff about Lawler, that was all work, wasn't it? I said, yeah, it was all work. And he said, but everybody believed it, didn't it? I said, yeah, everybody believed it. I said, even Tommy.
Yeah. Especially at TV that day.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, wow.
That's my favorite part of it. Always has been. As we were watching it that morning live, you were just like,
Yeah.
all right, this is happening right now. This is happening.
I was lost.
Hey.
I was dumbfounded what I was.
Hey, you know what Tommy said? Tommy was shaking his head saying, he's costing me more money right now again.
Well, we're gonna dig into that one of these days. I promise, folks. Y'all keep asking for it. We'll get there. Philip Hughes. This is kind of an interesting question. There's been a lot of this going on. I don't know how much you guys keep up with current wrestling, but Philip Hughes asked, how do you guys feel about celebrities being allowed to get in the ring and have full-blown matches these days with main event talent and big promotions? Do you feel it diminishes or exposes the business, or at this point, are we well past that?
Well, I think it's when Vince come out and said it's sports entertainment. I mean, that pretty much. I mean, it's like a different world now than what I don't think that would have happened back when we was working territories and stuff. That didn't. I mean, it didn't happen. I don't think. I say it didn't happen. I was just happened to flip through the TV today, and I seen this show called Territories, and it was Lawler and Jarrett and all them. And they were showing that angle with Andy Kaufman. So
and
I guess actors did get in it sometimes back then.
Yeah, and that to me is the greatest. Anybody can say whatever they want, but that was the greatest ever crossover TV guy to wrestling.
Oh, yeah, you ain't lying. I mean, but he sold it so good. I mean, because I had never watched the whole thing, and I got to watching it. I mean, I didn't realize he wore that collar. He wore it
Everywhere.
Like 4 weeks or something. And then the show Taxi was starting back up. He even wore it on the show Taxi. You know, he wore the collar on it. I mean, so he sold it. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, he was a big fan, but he was a believer too. I mean, like Lawler. On Dave Letterman's show, Lawler getting up, he'd ask Lawler about would he slap him, and Lawler said, no, I don't think I can do that. I get arrested. And it ended up, Lawler did at the end of the thing. It was about over, and Lawler got up and slapped the dog speak out of him. He flipped over in that thing. I don't know if they was working it or not, but it sure sounded like he slapped the dog speak out of him.
Oh, he did. And the thing about it is he went on to say that before he died, that Lawler's what caused him to die and everything. I mean, you don't think he didn't. I mean, he really loved the business. I mean, he wore the neck brace. Not only, I mean, I'm talking about everywhere he went, he wore that neck brace.
Didn't he spend a week in the hospital in Memphis? Like, they tested him. They're like, we can't find anything wrong. And he's like, well, keep checking. And
and he paid for it. He paid for
the hospital. The ambulance. Said
everything.
All of that stuff.
That's because they was telling him to get up because they wasn't going to pay for the ambulance.
That's the best part of that story.
Yeah, that's.
They said the ref kept coming over to Lawler. He wants an ambulance. Lawler's like, tell him to get his ass out of the ring. We had a curfew. And he come over. He wants an ambulance. Like, tell him to get out of the ring. And he comes back. He'll pay for it. Call an ambulance.
Hey, and here's the thing. He never cashed his checks.
Yeah, that's what they had him. They found him after he died. Every one of them never.
Right.
What about that, Tommy? He never cashed a check that Jarrett gave him.
Ain't that something? He's a better man than me. I cashed all of mine. You can bet on it.
Well, I can say this. I kept 6 checks one time, and then Jerry called me, and he said, Doug, he said, are you not cashing your checks for some reason? And I said, well, yeah, I'm just saving them. And he said, well, have you ever thought about if I went out of business? And I said, well, I don't think you're going out of business, are you? He said, no, I'm not going out of business. He said, but you're getting my accounting books off. And I thought, ain't that something, Tommy? That's a different type deal, ain't it? But I mean, I was just putting them, had them in a drawer and everything. But to me, that was just like saving them. I guess I should have just went ahead and put them in the bank, but I just put them in the drawer and stuff.
So next up, we got.
But see, and that's why I didn't think Steve Austin then was having such a hard time. But then again, they wasn't at home like me and Tommy was at home. That's
That's a lot of that's a big part of it right there. If you got to stay somewhere every night, and you got a home to go to, that's a huge expense right there.
right.
I'm not sure. So, Gaijin, is that how you say that term for Japanese wrestling? What they call the American Gaijin Master sent this question in, Doug. Do you have an all-time favorite match of yours that you had in Japan?
I would say as far as I love me and Brian being in the tag team tournament that year together that I took him over there. That was the only time he went to Japan. I love that. But as far as probably the most famous match that I was in over there was the Kabuki retirement match. Me, Kabuki, and Terry Funk in a 6-man at Corkin Hall, sold out. And that's probably the most famous match. And then I won the IWA title over there, and it was it was held up, and they done one of the things where they got the ladder and the belts on top of the thing and everything. There was like 14 of us in there, and that's where I won it at and everything. And I really loved that. And I had good matches with Bill DeMont when I worked with him a lot over there, and he was Crash the Terminator, and everything. And I was trying to think. I worked with Dan Severn over there, and that was a freaking. You might as well be ready to fight, because he told me before we went to the ring, he said, Doug, I'm more nervous. I said, man, everything's going to be good. And he said, oh, no, you don't understand. I'm more nervous wrestling than I am fighting. I thought, oh, shit. and he suplexed me from the middle of the ring, and my lower back hit the second rope, and my butt was above the top rope. Or hold on, my higher back was on the second rope, and my butt hit above the top rope, and then I just flopped back in the ring, and I thought, oh my goodness, he is fighting this thing and everything. But that was a different experience. But Dan was cool. But like I said, he was nervous. He said he was more nervous wrestling than he was fighting.
Wow,
that's a different thing. And then I wrestled Kabuki a lot over there, and I had so much respect for him and everything. But it was like, Kabuki and the guys that I grew up watching and everything, and it was so over there. That was, a lot of great matches. And too, like me and Corporal Kirshner being tag team champions, and we wrestled a lot of different teams and stuff, and I liked all those matches and everything. But like I said, probably the most, as far as if you say famous one that I think about, was like being in there with Kabuki and Terry Funk and Kabuki's retirement match at Corkin Hall, and it sold out. That was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat teaming with those guys, and the Terry Funk having such a connection with your family and everything.
Yeah, and then there's one more, Mr. Danger. We had a lights out. Here lights out means, lights out, anything goes. Over there, they turned all the lights out at Corkin Hall. It was pitch black dark. I didn't know that's what it meant before we went out. And I go out, and the lights are all off. And like the only lights, like where you going up and down the aisles for the seats for people to get up, on the floor, there was lights like right there. But it's like pitch black dark. And the only thing you can see is the like the camera guys when they're shooting, you can see and everything. And they would like blink a light on every once in a while so the fans could see where we was at and everything. And they had a camera following us around with a light on just on us and everything. But it was pitch black in Corkin Hall. And that Mr. Danger hung me from the bleachers, from the top of the bleachers, and kicked my legs out. And it was a chain around my neck. And I thought, oh my goodness, I hope my head don't come off. But that was kind of a cool deal also.
I've seen some clips of that. It's kind of a cool effect. It's hard match to watch, but it's a cool effect. As like you say, it lights up at different times. You're like, oh, there they are.
Yeah.
So this guy's asked us a few questions over the different shows. Marty Confetti asks, Tommy, during your time as Thomas Rich in WCW, you had some matches with Oz, a.k.a. Kevin Nash. Do you have any memories or stories about working with Kevin Nash, and were you surprised he went on to be as big a star as he was?
I mean, he got the big push. I mean, he come in, and of course that Oz thing didn't get over. You know, the Oz thing didn't work for him. But I mean, when he went on, and he got a break. I mean, and I didn't know Kevin that good, so I don't know nothing about him.
Yeah. Here's a question for both of you guys. Danny Andrews asks, in your opinions, what made Jimmy Hart so much better than the majority of other managers in Memphis over the years?
His energy, and he knew, and Lawler coached him on everything that he done.
And Jimmy do anything you wanted him to do too. I mean, Jimmy,
right,
a trooper. I mean, anything he was asked to do, Jimmy was the first one in line to do it. And he'd go, like, they needed him for a radio, he'd be the first one there. You know, I mean, Jimmy just did what needed to be done. And plus, like they said, I mean, he could talk. I mean, he was the whole package.
Yeah. And like I said, he was coached by Lawler. And, you know, Lawler knew as far as his singing and with his singing, he could talk and everything. And to all the videos, like he was the first one that done the videos with all the guys, with Tommy, with Eddie, with Lawler, with everything, like, and the stuff with Lawler and the songs, Bad News, and all that stuff. I mean, Jimmy done all that. All that would have never been done if it wasn't for Jimmy Hart.
And kind of to your point, Tommy, didn't he kind of earn his way in doing all those things? Like, before he was ever a manager or got in front of a camera, he was going around helping promote, doing the music stuff, getting them buildings and stuff like that. That's my understanding anyway. And that's kind of, Lawler brought him on in as a manager at some point, but he was already like heavily involved in the promotion.
Yeah. Well, but of course, and Jimmy was a fan too. I mean, he grew up watching it too, right there in Memphis. I mean, and I guess, like Dougie said, I mean, I didn't know, Lawler got him, and I mean, they just they clicked together. And of course, Jimmy wouldn't tell Lawler what he thought, where we'd tell him what we thought. Yeah, Jimmy a little nicer than we was. You know, we want to say something, we said it.
All right, since we're covering 1991 on my other show, I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but Jeffrey Dale asks, Doug, I know you made it pretty clear in a past episode that you're not a fan of Eric Embry, but when Embry was brought in 1991 to book, how did Eddie get along with Embry initially, and what did Eric think, or what did Eddie think of Eric's booking?
I shouldn't even say this, but he's just a big piece of shit. And we might need to edit that out, because I probably didn't need to say shit. But then again, you might not need to edit either one of them out. But
no, I mean, you won't be the first person to have that opinion. So
and everything, but like I've said before, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. If you not mean it that in a disrespectful way, but if a guy stinks and don't take baths and smells and is just freaking, I mean. And you smell, I mean, he puts his stuff on when you work with him in the ring, he freaking just smells awful. I've got no respect for a person like that.
Yeah. Well, because they have no respect for themselves and no respect for the guys that have to get in there and work with them. And he's supposed to be the booker and the boss. Like, that's crazy.
But, you know, the people that likes him didn't have to see that side of him like we did.
Yeah. But as far as the booking side of it goes, his ideas, he comes in, he wants to do this Texas versus Tennessee thing that rocked on for quite a while around there. What did you guys think of that? I mean, do you think it had potential, or was it kind of like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing?
Well, we're just going to try. We're just going to make the best out of it that we could. And then I left and went to Puerto Rico. I couldn't take it anymore, and I left and went to Puerto Rico, and I stayed over there about, I think it's 2.5 months or something like that. And then I come back and I worked with him a couple of weeks, but I was never a fan.
Yeah. Did you have any dealings with him, Tommy?
No, I wasn't just in passing, I wasn't never, I was never a fan anyway. I'd probably say he didn't like me. Well, I didn't like him either. So, it just, and that's one of the things. Like me and Lawler had that love-hate relationship, but it was business, and we got by it. And, any way I could help Jerry now, I would. But Eric Emery's one that, I have no use for.
A couple more quick questions. We're going to wrap this one up. Evan Edwards asks of both of you, who is someone in wrestling who was legitimately tough that might surprise some people who might assume they weren't?
Tommy?
Shoot, when you go back to me, I mean, you talk about Danny Hodge, you knew he was tough.
Yeah.
Dale Lewis, I mean, you knew all them guys was tough.
Well, I'm going to tell you one. I'm going to tell you two. Is I don't know if, I mean, well, maybe they did think they was tough, or maybe they didn't because of the way they looked. Bobby Eaton was one of the toughest guys that there was. Dennis Condrey was one of the toughest guys that there was. If you was in a fight, you'd want Bobby Eaton on your side, and you'd want Dennis Condrey on your side. And I tagged with Dennis working for the Svobodes up there, and we was called the Lethal Weapons, and I think you put a few matches on our page of that and everything. Now Dennis was one tough son of a gun, wasn't he, Tommy?
Yeah, Dennis. Oh yeah, and I mean one punch. I seen him hit somebody one night, just knock flap out.
And also, I traveled with Murdoch a lot, and you wouldn't, if you looked at him, you wouldn't have thought he was, he could do that. But one punch, he'd knock people's slap out. I mean, just there was many bars that me and him sat in at night, and people would come up and say stuff that they shouldn't have then, and he didn't play that and everything. And I mean, he'd get right up and stand up, and he wouldn't hit them but about 6 inches. I mean, a punch 6 inches and just knock a guy flat out. So that would tell you that was. But I mean, there's a ton of guys, Gene. There's a ton of guys like that.
I think that's kind of what they were leaning towards, because like everybody talks about, Bobby Eaton's one of the smoothest wrestlers ever, best workers. But you don't hear like, man, that was a tough son of a gun, like you hear about like Haku and some of the people you typically hear that stuff about. So that's fun, because I did know Condrey. I've heard a lot. There's some pretty famous stories about Dennis Condrey just laying some people out, like say that short punch he had.
I mean, Bobby would lay him out too. I mean, Bobby would freaking fight in a second. I mean, if somebody freaking done something, and Bobby was so laid back, but I mean, if a fan or something or somebody done something to him or said something, that Bobby was freaking double tough.
That's awesome. That's fun to hear, because because Bobby was in it from when he was just a teenager. So I guess
him and Tommy, they's the first ones drinking them little short, them ponies. How many did y'all get, Tommy? We'd go from Nashville to Memphis. We started drinking an 8-pack apiece. By the time we quit that Tupelo trip, we was getting a case of them Pony Millers. That was 3 8-packs apiece. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. One last question. This was kind of interesting. I guess they're saying more in the early part of his career, when there was people like Steve Austin, for instance, who may have took him the wrong way. But Chuck the Truck asks, do either of you feel it would have benefited Jeff Jarrett to have been brought in under a different name and not acknowledge he was Jerry's son the way that Lawler did with Brian later on? Or did too many fans already really know Jeff and Jerry's relationship at that point, even fans?
Actually, I don't think they knew Jeff and Jerry, but they couldn't have been apart, I think, is why they just went ahead and done that. But I think it would have been real good if they could have done that. And sometimes I wish I could have done that with, as far as myself, and changed my last name, because it's hard. I mean, man, to step in the shoes of your dad or your brother or everything. And it's just, I think it's easier, and I think it's better like Brian and Lawler done it. I just think it's, you're standing on your own 2 feet.
Tommy, do you have opinion?
Well, see, I was around. I mean, like in Jeff, Jerry wasn't never around Jeff a whole lot. Like when I was starting the business, him and his wife were separated. So Jeff wasn't around the business. So I'm sure that was another reason Jeff, when he got into the business, Jerry wanted him to be everybody to know that was, his kid too. I mean, because like I said, I mean, Jerry used to come watch my football games. And never did. It was later that I even knew he had kids, two boys.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting question because I always thought it was, some people knew that Brian was Jerry Lawler's son, but the majority of most fans didn't, at least not early on till much later. And, Jeff had an uphill battle, because people always use the Goulas example and things like that. But, he was always, Jeff was.
They didn't ever find out that Tommy was the son, did they?
To this day, he's still using that Rich name. Oh, that would explain a lot of them titles there, Tommy. But
that's why I was a pretty boy.
Well, I said you was his boy, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of gave it away earlier, Doug. We just didn't know exactly what you meant. But as always, that's been a fun show, and we appreciate everybody sending in the questions.
Hey, man, it's been great, and I hope you still got more questions. Me and Tommy love doing this. I love answering questions and everything. But like I said, Wednesday night, Henderson County Fair, Lexington, Tennessee. Come see myself, Wildfire, Tommy Rich, and a lot of the superstars around the area. There'll be 5 big matches. September 12th, Ripley, Tennessee. September 13th, Dyersburg, Tennessee. September 14th, West Tennessee Comic Con, Jackson, Tennessee at the Carl Perkins Civic Center. September 20th, the Banana Festival in South Fulton, Tennessee from 11 to 2. Wildfire, Tommy Rich, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, Jerry the King Lawler, Jimmy the Mouth of South Hart will be there. That night, me and Tommy will leave and go to Paragould, Arkansas. September 20th, that night, Paragould, Arkansas. We'll be going over there. We'll get there about 5. We'll do a sign-in from, I think it's 5 to 7, and then we'll be wrestling after that. But this Paragould, Arkansas at the Greene County Fairgrounds. Everybody come on out and see us. Me and Tommy will be signing pictures, taking pictures with everyone, whatever you got. If you got any old stuff you want us to sign, bring it out. We'll sign it also and everything. And we've got a lot of new pictures for everybody and shirts. We got our Memphis Mafia shirts with us and everything. And we got all the merch. You got anything you want. But anyway, listen, man, Gene, I've had a good time on this show tonight. Tommy, I hope you have and everything. But, man, listen, everybody be cool, and we appreciate you listening. And peace. We're out.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
In the heart of Tennessee, born to pride, Doug and Tommy taking rings in stride. Memphis legends never backing down, wrestling warriors, they wear the crown. USWA, glory in their veins, fighting legends breaking chains. In the squared circle they made their name. Podcast champions, it's their claim to fame. On the mic they roar, on the map they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stakes. From title belts to Hall of Fame, Doug and Tommy carved the name, fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight we told, tales of glory, laughter, cry. Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. In the ring or on the air, legends living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the mat they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more.